When the shelves are bare across the city and every door you try is empty, do you know what to take, where to go, and what to leave untouched? Choose wrong, and you burn calories you can't replace. A misread plant puts you down, and the wrong bag in your hand turns you into someone else's target. Stay with me, and we'll turn that ground underneath your boots into a map. Greens and roots you can name on sight, nuts and seeds that travel, insects and fish that deliver real protein. We'll work the city quietly along the back rooms, break spaces, water lines, and edges, taking what's safe and skipping what pulls you into crowds. You'll see how to cook for safety without broadcasting smell and light, how to pack and cache so one loss doesn't wipe you out, and how to move like a gray man so food never advertises your route. By the end, you'll have a loop you can repeat tomorrow. Find what feeds you, make it safe, store it tight, and walk home unnoticed. Wild greens and roots. Start with common, high-confidence plants that prep fast and show up in most climates. Confirm identity before harvest. Guessing turns hunger into injury. Work low-effort loops along park edges, vacant lots, drainage lines, and field margins. Open lawns and cracks give the first wins. Dandelion shows a basal rosette and pays end to end. Young leaves are eaten raw. Mature leaves get a short boil to reduce bitterness, and the water is discarded. Flowers add small carbohydrates, and scrubbed, sliced roots roast into a coffee-style hot drink. In the same short grass, broadleaf plantain stands out with ribbed veins in a flat rosette. Leaves cook down easily, and a crushed leaf on minor stings or bites calms the skin. From open turf to disturbed soil, nutrition steps up with lamb's quarters. Clip young tops, then boil or sauté, confirming by the goosefoot leaf shape and pale powder on the new growth. Where shade meets sun, the line often turns to chickweed with tiny star-shaped white flowers. Eat fresh when cool, or give a quick cook before heat turns it mushy. Pavement margins and gravel beds favor purslane, low and sprawling with smooth reddish stems and spoon-shaped leaves. Expect a clean lemon note and useful omega-3s, raw or cooked, while spurge with irritating milky sap stays in the ground. Along fences and hedges, height and sting announces nettles. Gloves on for harvest, a brief boil drops the sting, and the results act like field spinach. Surplus dries well for tea. Unmown patches fill with clover, which works best with a little processing. Blossoms dry for grinding to stretch limited flour, and leaves are cooked or dried for easier digestion. When greens are covered, smell settles the next call. Wild onion and wild garlic confirmed by a clean onion-garlic odor from crushed leaf or bulb. Almond-like or absent scent ends the harvest and the bulbs stay put. Micronutrients keep the head clear, but distance is carried by starch, so the route pivots to roots and tubers. In first-year rosettes, burdock hides long taproots that scrub, slice, and boil to artichoke-like finish. Discard the boil water. Sunny, waste-ground stands with tall sunflower stalks usually mark Jerusalem artichoke or sunchoke. Knobby tubers roast, boil, or stew for bulk energy, and leaving part in the soil turns the patch into living storage. Old ornamental beds add daylily where houses have gone dark. Correct ID yields edible buds for the pan and small tubers for boil or roast. Light harvest keeps the stand producing. As the loop crosses water, the menu widens without extra miles. Cattails take priority because seasons hand over different parts. Peeled spring shoots for mild greens. Later, rhizome starch scrapped and boiled or dried, and pollen shaken into a bag to fortify porridge or dough. Byproducts matter too. Fluff for tinder, and long leaves twisted into cordage for camp tasks. Safety rides with every handful, especially when roots are involved. All wild carrot lookalikes stay in the ground without expert certainty. Water hemlock is final. Wild mushrooms remain off the list without pro-level training and proof. Universal edibility tests waste crisis hours. Preparation makes forage usable instead of symbolic. Bitter or tannin-rich cooking water is poured off. Greens pair with starchy roots so vitamins meet calories, and any available fat raises energy density. The pinch of salt, if on hand, prevents cramps and steadies hydration in heat. Storage carries today's work into tomorrow's meal. Air dry surplus greens until crisp, and store away for moisture, insects, and light. Parboiled roots sliced thin and dried to cut weight and extend shelf life, with tight lids and rodent-proof containers protecting reserves. The loop closes with a rhythm that repeats without drawing eyes. Greens first light, cattails at midday, roots on the return. So attention stays low and output stays steady. Next layer, nuts, seeds, and wild fruits to stack fat and starch onto this baseline. Nuts, seeds, and wild fruits. With greens and roots set, the next layer is compact energy that carries farther. Focus shifts to fat, starch, and sugar that travels well and store clean. Under oak canopies, acorns show up as seasonal staples. Start with a quick float test at the source. Cracked shells, bored nuts, and floaters are discarded. Shell, break into small pieces, and leach tannins in flowing water, or with repeated hot water changes until bitterness is gone. Finish by roasting for immediate food or grinding into flour for porridge and flatbread. Cool, dry storage works best with acorns kept in the shell and shelled in batches to limit pests. For deep calories, step over to walnut, hickory, and pecan. Short air drying helps shells split cleaner. Stones or tools open husks without wasting kernels. Nut meats eat straight, press to paste, or render gently for cooking fat that upgrades thin meals. Husks and shells serve as tinder, dye, or abrasive scrub, so nothing is wasted. In pine country, time and warmth open cones for pine nuts. Gather unopened cones, dry or warm them until scales lift, and shake seeds free. Pinch off hulls, eat raw or lightly roast. Oil-rich kernels extend satiation during long movement windows. Field hedges add seeds when patience pays. Sunflower heads rattle when dry. Rubbing frees seeds, and a light breeze finishes the winnow. Amaranth and lamb's quarters thresh in a bag. A gentle pour separates chaff from keepers. A quick roast kills pests, and grinding turns seed into meal for mush, flatbread, or soup thickener. Heavy grass stands contribute grain by the handful as small gains accumulate across the loop. In season, wild fruits deliver quick sugar, hydration, and vitamins once identification is certain. Blackberries, raspberries, blueberries, and mulberries give reliable returns in their window. Softest fruit feeds first. Firmer fruit is set aside to dry for travel and storage. Rose hips supply vitamin C after splitting, removing hairs, and boiling for tea or eating the pulp. Coastal routes add sea buckthorn, sour nutrient-dense clusters that strain clean after clipping. Where climate permits, crabapples, serviceberries, and hawthorn extend the fruit calendar. Elderberry belongs on the list with one rule: always cook. Raw can trigger nausea and cramps. Safety stays ahead of appetite with seeds and fruit. Unknown white, yellow, or green berries remain on the branch unless identification is absolute. Nightshade-like and waxy ornamental clusters fail the risk-to-calorie test. Harvest avoids spray zones, heavy traffic dust, and industrial runoff to keep contaminants down. Drying and storage keeps sugar portable and nuts durable. Thin slices sun-dry on mesh or near warm coals until leathery, then cool and seal airtight. Fruit puree spreads thin into fruit leather that resists crushing inside a pack. Whole nuts store best cool and dry with rotation to catch rancid odors early. Rodent-proof containers, tight lids, and double bagging keep night thieves from undoing the day's work. Use pears, dense with light for steady output. Nuts eaten with greens slow digestion and extend usable energy. Milled seeds thicken broths, so thin soups carry real calories rather than flavor alone. Dried fruit folded into morning porridge delivers quick sugar before the long travel windows. Loop integration keeps efforts efficient. Cool mornings suit berry picking before heat bruises the harvest. Midday wind helps winnow seed while the route keeps moving. Evening near camp handles acorns and cones. Leaching and drying run while the rest of the work shuts down. Trees and patches keep producing when only one portion is taken and the path moves on. With fat, starch, and sugar laid in, the energy side is stable. Next comes quiet, repeatable protein from the landscape, insects and small game, done safely and at a net calorie gain. Insects and small game. Protein without a supermarket starts with low-effort wins that cook fast and travel light. Priority stays on methods that work while other tasks get done. Begin with insects because collection is simple and the net calories are high. Crickets and grasshoppers are safe after removing their legs and wings, then roasting until crisp. Ants are edible. Heat tames the acid bite and lowers risks. Termites gathered from rotting wood or mounds deliver dense protein with minimal effort. Beetle larvae and mealworms add both fat and protein once cooked through. Earthworms are purged in clean water, then boiled or roasted before eating. Brightly colored or hairy insects signal higher toxin risk and are skipped. Cooking remains non-negotiable to reduce parasites and bacteria. Collection favors passive or quick sweeps over long chases. Nightlights, damp ground cloths, and flipped boards concentrate insects for fast harvest. A small net or hand screen through tall grass gathers multiples in minutes. Salt, oil, or crushed nuts improve calories and palpability when supplies allow. Extras double as bait for fish, multiplying returns without extra trips. Shift to small game once patterns are clear and sign is fresh. Rabbits and squirrels use repeat paths between cover and food, making placement predictable. Snares ride low and small on rabbit runs. Slightly higher and larger loops suit squirrels. Choke points, trail funnels, and burrow mouths are prime, with nature guides narrowing the path. Deadfall traps take small rodents when bait is stable and scent kept minimal. Check intervals stay short to prevent loss to predators and limit suffering. Handling decides whether protein helps or harms. Field dressing avoids puncturing intestines or gall. Contamination ruins meat fast. All meat is cooked thoroughly. Rare or raw invites parasites and disease. Urban rodents carry higher disease risks. Sores, odd smells, or abnormal behavior trigger discard. Animals acting disoriented, trembling, or aggressive without cause are not taken. Birds and eggs offer opportunistic calories with low exertion. Roost sites at dawn or dusk concentrate targets for nests and handtakes in tight spaces. Abandoned structures, hedgerows, and culverts hide nests. Protective adults require caution. Eggs are cooked fully, shells boil for calcium, and later soil amendment when cultivation begins. Where water and climate allow, reptiles and amphibians widen options. Frogs and crayfish from clean sources are boiled and roasted hard to cut pathogen load. Snakes are edible when skinned and cooked through. Heads and venom glands are discarded. Water quality controls harvest. Polluted canals and industrial runoff sites are skipped. Use the whole animal to stretch returns. Meat feeds today. Bones simmer into broth that recovers minerals and calories from scraps. Skins dry for cordage, patch material, or basic insulation once cleaned. Rendered fat becomes cooking fuel and raises the energy density of plant-heavy meals. Storage keeps work from disappearing overnight. Thin strips of meat near warm smoke until firm and fly safe. Cool airflow beats fast heat. Visible mold means restart, not salvage. Salt, if available, pulls moisture and extends shelf life. Smoke adds protection and flavor. Loop integration keeps efforts efficient and risk low. Morning checks snares and deadfalls before heat spoils catches. Midday resets gear, gathers insects, and preps bait for the next cycle. Evening handles cooking, drying, and broth, so byproducts become tomorrow's fuel. With quiet, repeatable protein established, the route turns to water, fish, and water plants for steady calories from ponds, streams, canals, and coasts. Hey, quick break here. Are you hungry for more? If so, like, subscribe, and share this video with the one person you'd feed first. Alright, let's get back to it. Fish and water plants. With land protein established, water adds steady calories without chasing distance. Risk assessment leads because clean flow beats stagnant pools and chemical odor ends the plan. Start with low effort capture that works while other tasks run. Hen lines, set lines, and trot lines fish unattended and pay in quiet water. Hooks improvised from safety pins, needles, bone splinters, or carved thorns. Leaders braid from paracord guts or strong thread. Floats come from bottles or bark. Sinkers from wrapped scrap metal or drilled stones. Bait stays simple: insects, worms, offal, crushed snails, or leftover scraps. Moving water favors weirs and funnels over single hooks. Stake or stone V-shapes push fish into narrow throats that end in baskets or lift nets. In still backwaters, inverted neck bottle traps gather minnows for food or later bait. Crayfish enter baited funnels under rocks. A quick lift traps multiples with little effort. where clarity and footing cooperate, spearing and hand takes fill in the gaps. Nightlight draws fish close, but raises exposure. Short windows and quiet approach reduce risk. Undercut banks, root tangles, and log jams hide catfish and eels that deliver heavy protein with basic gear. Processing decides whether water helps or harms. Gutting avoids puncturing gall and intestines. Contamination spoils meat fast. Fresh water is cooked through. Flesh turns opaque and flakes before serving. Crayfish, snails, and frogs are boiled hard to cut pathogen load. Heads, frames, and skins simmer into broth. Small bones soften and return minerals over time. Storage keeps work from evaporating by morning. Thin fillets dry above warm smoke until firm and fly safe. Cool airflow beats fast heat to prevent mold. Salt, if available, pulls moisture and extends shelf life. Smoke adds protection and flavor. In-water keepers hold live catch until processing windows open. Stale or off-smelling fish are discarded. Plants at the water's edge deliver greens, starch, and utility in the same loop. Cattails remain priority by season. Peeled spring shoots for mild greens, later rhizomes scraped for starch, pollen shaken to fortify porridge or dough, fluff for tinder, and leaves twisted into cordage. Fast streams with clean sources support watercress for crisp vitamins. Duckweed carries protein by weight, but accumulates pollutants. Only clean sources and thorough rinsing qualify. Shallow margins hide arrowhead, wapato, and bulrush tubers that roast or boil into dependable bulk. Where present, lotus and water lily offer starchy rhizomes and edible seeds. Mud washing and full cooking make them practical. Coastlines and estuaries widen options when tides cooperate. Falling tides expose mussels, clams, limpets, periwinkles, barnacles, and small crabs on rocks and flats. Red tide or algal alerts stop shellfish harvest. Biotoxins outweigh any calorie gain. Filter feeders purge in clean salt water or oatmeal slurry before boiling. Unopened shells after cooking are discarded. Seaweeds such as kelp, dulse, or bladderwrack add minerals and bulk. Bright fronds from moving water rinse, blanch, and dry well for storage. Salt-tolerant shore plants, sea beet, samphire, glasswort, contribute trace minerals and flavor when identified correctly. Loop integration keeps effort efficient across day parts. Lines set at dusk pay by first light, before heat and scavengers take their share. Tide windows drive shore work, with collection focused on the lowest exposure and fastest exit. Midday processes drying, salting, and broth, so evening resets lines instead of cooking from scratch. Byproducts stretch returns when supplies are thin. Rendered fish oils fuel lamps and boost meal calories. Crushed shells add calcium to long-boiled broths and later to soil when cultivation restarts. Cleaned swim bladders dry into strong glue. Bones shape into awls, needles, and small hooks for the next run. Water, done right, adds repeatable protein and starch without burning miles. The next section turns back to the city grid, urban scavenging and quiet finds, to pull calories, containers, and fuel from rooms and corridors everyone else walked past. Urban scavenging and quiet finds. With water and wild foods in play, the built environment still holds calories, containers, and fuel. Short entries, quick movement, and predictable exits keep risk low and return steady. Start with overlooked nodes that crowds missed on day one. Backrooms, staff kitchens, and break areas often retain cans, dry goods, oil, sugar, and salt after aisles are bare. Clinics, offices, and depots concentrate calories in vending machines with sealed packaging. Maintenance closets add bottled water, denatured alcohols, heavy-duty bags, and tape for securing food against pests. Basements and rooftop storage stay cooler and less obvious than ground floor shelves. Shift to apartments and evac zones where quiet pantries remain. Units with piled mail, no night lighting, and undisturbed dust suggests vacancies. Common staples include canned meats and vegetables, pastas, rice, oats, flour, cooking oil, sugar, salt, tea, and coffee. Pots, jars, and tight lids convert fragile finds into storable reserves. Stairwells, blind corners, and choke points are avoided in favor of 2 clear routes per entry. Food service footprints offer bulk when intact and unpicked. School kitchens, community centers, and small diners stored large cans, jugs of oil, flour, syrup, and dry mixes. Walk-ins without power are triaged immediately. Dry goods move first, perishables only if fuel is available. Back-of-house shelves and dry storage beat front counters and undisturbed stock. When human food thins, pet and feed stores remain emergency options. Sealed canned pet food, dry kibble, birdseed, whole corn, and rolled oats are edible and cookable. Labels matter. Medicated or high salt feeds are deprioritized for steady use. Grain is checked for mold, insects, and off smells before storage. Industrial and transit zones hide calories behind routine. Warehouse break rooms, rail depots, and truck yards hold snacks, bottled drinks, and condiments inside rooms. High mezzanine shelves and forklift spillover pallets are common stash points. Quiet ladders and tie-offs reduce fall risk. Safety checks prevent a meal from becoming a medical problem. Bulging lids, leaking seams, heavy rim rust, and sour or chemical odors trigger discard. Swollen packaging and deep seam dents raise botulism risk. These items are left behind. Dry goods are rebagged in clean liners and jarred with desiccant where available. Rodent signs like droppings, gnaw marks, hair means bleach wash of surfaces and tight reseal of all containers. Fuel and heat dictate what gets carried and cooked. No reliable heat favors ready-to-eat cans, nut butters, chocolate, and dense snacks. Limited fuel steers toward one-pot starches and long-boiled broths that convert scraps into calories. Alcohol stoves, solid fuel tabs, and enclosed flame cups minimize smoke, smell, and light. Tools that change outcomes ride light and pay back every entry. Small pry bar for stuck doors, compact bolt cutter for light chains, and a screwdriver set for panels and crates. Headlamp with red mode, thin gloves, tape, marker, and contractor bags for fast sorting and clean carry. Paracord inner strands retwist into ties. Zip ties lock lids and bundle loads. Sorting on site saves energy and limits exposure. High-calorie, high-density items load first. Oil, nuts, chocolate, peanut butter, flour, rice, beans. Meal extenders, salt, sugar, bouillon, soy, spices, turn thin fines into workable food. Glass rides tight to the back panel. Cans ride low and centered. Sharp corners get taped. Storage and caching protect gains from single-point failure. Multiple small caches beat one big stash that invites discovery. Containers hide in cool, dry, elevated spaces away from obvious lines of sight. Noise traps, string and cans, foil flags, and sprinkled glass buy seconds to react at night. Movement discipline keeps attention low. Neutral clothing, steady pace, and hands-free read as unremarkable. Loadout happens undercover. Visible heavy bags invite followers. Routes vary, timing shifts, and patterns refuse repetition. Loop integration ties city finds into the wider plan. Morning runs favor quiet buildings before foot traffic rises. Midday handles sorting, repack, and quick cooking for perishables. Evening moves caches closer to home base and resets for the next cycle. Urban calories extend range, upgrade meals, and supply containers, fuel, and tools. Next comes durability, preservation, and stretching calories, so today's work remains edible for days and weeks instead of hours. Preservation and stretching calories. With sources flowing, the next job is keeping food safe long enough to matter. Cold is scarce, so preservation leans on dryness, salt, smoke, acid, and smart rationing. Start with drying, because low moisture blocks bacteria and cuts weight. Thin cuts of meat hang over warm smoke until firm and fly safe, with steady airflow beating fast heat. Fish fillets dry above gentle smoke. Visible mold means discard, not rescue. Fruits slice thin and sun-dry on clean mesh until leathery. Puree spreads into fruit leather that won't crush in a pack. Greens dry to crisp for later soups. Roots parboil, slice, and dry to extend shelf life and reduce fuel later. Add smoke and salt when drying alone isn't enough. A light, cool smoke layer slows insects. Heavy, hot smoke cooks and preserves but needs fuel discipline. Salt pulls moisture from meat and fish. Brine or dry cure until firm, then rinse and dry or smoke till finish. Where sugar is available, fruit turns into jam or syrup. Lids must seal and jars store cool and dark. Use fermentation for long-lasting vitamins when heat and salt run low. Simple sauerkraut needs shredded cabbage, salt, submersion, and an oxygen-free seal. Brined vegetables keep crisp and safe in cool shade as lactic acid builds. High-acid foods tolerate boiling water canning. Low-acid foods do not, unless a pressure canner and correct temp exists. If proper canning gear is missing, choose drying, salting, smoking, or fermentation instead of risky jars. Render fat to lift calorie density and carry flavors. Clean, slow heat turns trimmings into tallow or lard for cooking, frying, and sealing cooked meat in a fat cap. Fat stores cool and dark. Rancid smell or sticky feeling signals discard. Build mixes that travel and last. Jerky plus rendered fat makes field-stable bars. Dried berries add carbs and micronutrients. Seed and nut pastes thicken broth and turn thin soups into meals that stick. Control containers, light, pests, and moisture, or preservation fails. Glass jars, metal tins, and tight lids beat thin bags for long storage. Cool, dry, and dark locations slow spoilage. Warm, bright, and damp speeds it up. Rodent-proof bins, hanging sacks, and buried cash tubes protect reserves from teeth and theft. Ash lines, clean sand, and improvised desiccants reduce insects and humidity in storage spaces. Improvise cooling where ice is fantasy. Evaporative pots, clay in clay with wet sand, drop temperature in dry air. Shaded airflow under floors or in cellar corners buys days for cooked food. Root crops hold longer in boxes of dry sand or leaves in a cool, still place. Practice first in, first out, so old stock moves before new. Label with charcoal marks and dates. Portion into small packs so one open lid doesn't expose everything. Check stores on a schedule for rusted seams, swollen cans, insect frass, off smells, and damp corners. Stretch meals with fuel-efficient cooking. Pre-soak beans and grains. Cut food small, and favor one-pot stews over dry bakes. Haybox or retained heat cooking finishes a boil without burning more fuel. Thermos or tight pot wraps keep food hot and cooking off flame. Pressure cookers, if found, stash fuel for tough cuts and dense legumes. Avoid danger zones that turn dinner into a clinic visit. Warm, wet food sits in the bacteria sweet spot. Either keep it hot, cool it fast, or don't store it. Slime, gas, sour chemical odors, or colored growth flag discard. Eggs cook through, shellfish open during boiling, or get tossed. Freshwater fish never serve raw. Balance macros so work matches intake. Protein alone leads to fatigue. Pair meat or insects with fat and starch. Greens supply vitamins. Roots and grains carry distance. Fats keep energy steady between meals. Use rationing that preserves strength instead of just cutting volume. Eat perishables first, then short life items, saving salt-cured and dried stock for later. Plan portions around work windows so heavy tasks follow the densest meals. Keep a small travel pack ready. Nuts, dried meat, fruit leather, hard biscuits, so movement never means skipping calories. Tie preservation into the daily loop so it runs while other work happens. Morning check storage, vents smokehouses, and flips drying racks. Midday batches brine, render fat, and rotate jars. Evening finishes low heat drying by residual fire and locks caches before dark. Preservation turns lucky finds into a steady table instead of a single feast. That's the loop. Plan, collect, make it safe, store it tight, stay unremarkable. Practice now so tomorrow isn't guesswork. Keep calories steady, risk low, and patterns quiet. If this gave you a clearer path, drop one skill you're going to test this week in the comments below. Stay calm, fed, and invisible, and I'll see you in the next one.